Hey everyone, Andrew Bosserman, former IRS agent turned tax attorney here. Today, I want to share something that might surprise you. When dealing with the IRS, your attitude and approach can actually shape your outcome more than you might think. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Andrew, the IRS is impossible to deal with. I sit on them forever on hold. When I get a hold of somebody or deal with an agent, they're strict, they don't believe me. Why does my attitude even matter? I've been on both sides of the table. I was an IRS agent and now I represent taxpayers. And I can tell you from experience, how you approach these interactions makes a massive difference. So today I'm going to share 4 behavioral principles that can actually improve your IRS outcome. These come from some of the best books on communication and influence that I've read, and I've seen them work in real cases. So let's dive in. So principle number 1, begin in a friendly way. So this principle comes from Dale Carnegie's classic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. In that book, Carnegie shares a quote by Abraham Lincoln that says, "A drop of honey catches more flies than a gallon of gall or vinegar." He also shares in the story Aesop's fable about the north wind and the sun. So in this fable, the north wind and the sun, they're arguing about who's stronger when a traveler walks by who's wearing a coat. They decide, and they bet amongst themselves, whoever can get the traveler to remove his coat is the strongest. So the north wind goes first, blowing hard and fierce, keeps blowing harder and harder. But what happens? The traveler just wraps his coat tighter around himself. The harder the wind blows, the more the traveler resists. Then the sun comes out and he takes a different approach. He just shines warmly, and within minutes, the traveler takes off his coat voluntarily. So here's the thing in the application from that story. When you walk into an IRS audit or other interaction acting angry and combative, you're being like the north wind. You're making the agent defensive, and they're probably going to hold on to their position even tighter. But when you start friendly and cooperative, you're the sun. You create an environment where the agent actually wants to work with you. Now, I'm not saying be a pushover. There's absolutely a time to be firm, but nothing is going to hurt your tax case further than getting into arguments with the IRS agent right off the bat. Next, let's look at principle number 2, which is seek first to understand, then to be understood. So this principle comes from Stephen Covey's famous book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and it's about empathetic listening. So I'm guilty of this myself, listening to reply instead of listening to understand. As soon as I think I know where the conversation is going, I'm already preparing a response in my head. So here's a simple, if not silly example. Imagine you're at a restaurant and a server asks, "Are you enjoying your meal?" You might say, "It's delicious," without fully listening to the end. But what if his full question was, "Are you enjoying your meal?" Because the kitchen wanted me to let you know that the dish was accidentally made with nuts in case you have any allergies. If you have a nut allergy, that completely changes your response, right? The same thing happens in IRS interactions. You need to fully listen and understand what the agent is actually saying before you formulate your reply. Don't be afraid to take it slow and ask clarifying questions. If you're worried about forgetting your points, just write them down while you continue to listen. The second part of Stephen Covey's summary of then to be understood, meaning you need to seek first to understand. That's the first part. Then the second part is then to be understood. That's about skillfully conveying your position. Many IRS employees are used to people getting agitated or taking hard and combative stances immediately. When I was an IRS agent, the most successful communications happened when taxpayers explained their position thoroughly and calmly. So there's a common phrase in the law that reasonable minds can differ. The agent might not have all the facts or might have a different perspective. Your job is to help them understand your point of view in a civil manner rather than attacking them. Principle number 3, treat the IRS agent the way you'd want to be treated. So this is the golden rule, which comes straight from the Bible. which says, do to others as you would have them do to you. I've been on both sides of the audit table many times, and here's what I learned as an IRS agent. Most people's frustrations with the IRS have nothing to do with the individual employee sitting across from them. Yes, the IRS can be incredibly frustrating. The long phone wait times, the bureaucratic red tape, the inconveniences of an audit. All of that is real, and I'm not minimizing that, but those problems aren't caused by the agent in the room with you. That agent is just a person doing their job. They didn't create the tax code. Congress did that. They didn't personally decide to audit you. Someone else in the whole selection system at the IRS did that. They're working within a massive government system with its own rules and constraints. So when you take out your frustrations with the system on the individual agent, you're essentially shooting yourself in the foot. Keep your perspective and treat that agent with basic human respect. I've consistently found that audits and all other IRS interactions turn out better when you follow this simple principle of just treating the agent the way you'd like to be treated. And the fourth and final principle is strategic transparency. You want to acknowledge the weaknesses of your case. Now, this one may seem counterintuitive, but I'll explain. In the book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, who's a former FBI hostage negotiator, he recommends doing what he calls an accusation audit before any high-stakes negotiation. And this applies perfectly to IRS situations. Here's how it works. Before you meet with the IRS or talk with an agent, list every negative thing they could possibly say about your case, every accusation they can make, every weakness in your position. For example, if you're arguing for penalty abatement because you filed late, the IRS might say, and they're likely to say, didn't you know you had a filing responsibility? Or wasn't it unreasonable to rely on your accountant without confirming they filed your return? Now here's the key. You bring up these weaknesses first before the IRS can use them against you. Why does this work? Because it demonstrates self-awareness and honesty. It shows you have nothing to hide. It reduces the agent's suspicion and helps build rapport with the agent. Let me give you an example from my own practice. I had a client, and let's call him Harry, who was trying to get a 6-figure refund from an amended return. His CPA had initially filed the return incorrectly, sending the loss back to the wrong year. Then the CPA filed a corrected version, but sent it to the wrong IRS address. Now here's the problem. Under tax law, a return is only considered filed on time if it's addressed correctly, so the IRS denied the refund. When I filed an appeal protesting the IRS's denial, I didn't hide this mistake. I acknowledged right up front that the CPA had mailed the return to the wrong address, but I argued that Harry shouldn't be penalized for his CPA's error. I also pointed out that the IRS had actually processed the original incorrect amended return sent to that same wrong address, proving they actually received it and accepted it. So a few months later, Harry got his full refund check back, hundreds of thousands of dollars. No additional meetings required, no further arguments necessary. Acknowledging that weakness first, combined with context and explanation, it ended up making all the difference in Harry's case. So let's wrap it all up with the bottom line. Many taxpayers think acting tough will help their IRS case, but I've seen where that leads, and it's often nowhere good. Back when I was a revenue agent, one of my colleagues actually had a case get so bad that 2 armed agents with shotguns had to deliver the final paperwork to the taxpayer. And I'll let you guess what was in that paperwork. It wasn't a refund to the taxpayer. Here's the reality. Dealing with the IRS is as much about mindset as it is about facts and figures. The way you approach an interaction can either open doors or slam them shut. If you're combative and angry, you raise red flags. You make the agent defensive, you close off possibilities for resolution. But if you're polite, professional, and strategic, the agent is more likely to take you at your word, and they're more likely to work with you towards a reasonable outcome. These 4 principles I just went over, beginning in a friendly way, seeking first to understand, treating the agent with respect, and being strategically transparent, they're not just nice ideas or hypotheticals. They're practical tools that can generally improve your IRS outcome, and I've seen them work in my own practice. Now, if you're facing an IRS audit, appeal, tax court case, or collection issue, and you want help navigating it the right way, that's exactly what I do at Boss Tax Law. Feel free to reach out through the link in the description below, or you can visit our website at bosstaxlaw.com. And if you found this helpful, please make sure to subscribe. I try to share strategies like this regularly to help business owners and high net worth individuals deal with the IRS effectively. So thanks very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.